This is Kal Kat, the Kal Katster, in the strangely framed. This is a review of a Demon Slayer, the Infinity Castle. Yeah, I saw it. Mark's Cards and I were at box lunch, like not this week, but last Thursday. People were talking about it. One of the stores. They kind of gave away a scene from the movie. But yeah, this will have spoilers just because it kind of has to have to explain it. Of course, I read up on it after seeing it. And yeah, this is another Japanese anime movie where I'm seeing an OVA of a show that's already established that going in, you have no clue as to what's going on because it's like upteenth season later. It's apparently based on a manga, Demon Slayer manga. Which came out in 2016. They made a TV show of it around 2019, 2020, and up until present. So there's 4 seasons. This is apparently actually this movie is the finale of season 4. Technically, they bring in the main characters and they fight in this giant tesseract type of thing. I would describe it as a tesseract, a Rube Goldberg tesseract, kind of world tesseract planet. That's valid. I was a science fiction person. That's what I would say it is. It's supposed to take place 100 years ago, so it's during a little over 100 years ago in feudal Japan. Well, I guess technically, early industrial Japan, before Empire Japan. Before World War One, in the story. And then obviously World War II. And what's interesting about now with the internet, everybody can look it up, but for the longest time, they did not tell the other generations after World War II exactly what happened during the defeat of the Japanese Empire. And so a lot of these old school guys are animator guys, come out of animation, and they do these TV shows, the manga shows, the shows illustrating and trying to not directly say, but indirectly say what's going on after World War II and that the nuclear bombs and stuff. But this movie doesn't quite go there, but it kind of illustrates there a little bit. You can kind of tell that the producer, I don't know the names. If I tried to pronounce them, I would probably mess them up. But heavy on the animation. Appears to be heavy on a little bit of use of CG for the Tesseract world. But mainly cell animation on top of that. So they didn't explain it. So a lot of these early animators, if they came out of animation in the 80s with anime, they would throw World War II parables in there. They'd make like in Robotech, the Zentradi were clearly supposed to be America. What's going on? The Star Blazers, the Gamelons were America, and Godzilla, the military was America. They're spoofing us. We get it. It's funny. But yes. So here we have a. So here we have here we have a slightly different genre though. We have fantasy. We have high fantasy. Star Blazers was more science fiction. This is a bit more like on a par with Buffy the Vampire Slayer and stuff like that. The Demon Slayer genre. I don't think the demons represent America necessarily, but some of them clearly represent something like that, because clearly they act like incels in the story. This guy's an incel. Not familiar with the show, although at Fanime, several people dressed as some of the characters. Fortunately, one of them did say what was from. I was familiar with a name more so than the anime, because other people had mentioned what was in the Fanime. One of the costume people had a picture of. It's from the costumes from Demon Slayer. She told me that. I thought, oh, okay. Yeah, and I had to pretend like I totally knew, other than just I knew the name. I didn't really know the rest of it. But yes, yeah. So there's any number of these. I remember in the '80s and early '90s they had demon movies, that kind of thing. Tentacle monsters. Not as much tentacle monsters in this one. I met the guy that did the tentacle monster movie, the Urtosoki demon movie. We met that guy at a convention once. He was nice. He wasn't creepy at all. But yeah, the guy from the '80s. But this is a lot gorier than that. It's not a par with that, I would say. Gorier in a different way. Yeah, not as much as grape, let's say. More like just like weird space battles. Very frantic, very kinetic. It's got that whole sped up sort of, instead of slow mo, it's sped up kind of thing. Modern millennial type of action sequences where with older ones you had the sword fight go on, and they weren't just like doing extreme close-ups of a sword going and then blood going, feel artsy. It's more like, no, you get to see them fighting each other. Then a head comes off or an arm comes off or something. But no, they're getting a little stylized. You know, they're fighting supernatural creatures. Okay, yeah. This is a very highly rated series. I think the one that's the highest rated though is actually the one 2 movies before it. That they keep saying it's this one. It's the one that's 2 movies before. That's the second one that's got the high rating. The train one. This is the Demon Castle. It's a castle. It's a little later. It's later on, 4th season. It flashes backward and forward to different characters as they're fighting the final boss, like a video game, kind of like a hyperactive version of like Card Captor or something. They have a lot like that. Yeah, it's but in Dragon Ball, but with demons. So yeah, they're doing these things, and they spend a lot of time exposition. I commented to Mark's cards in a text, having just seen it. Yeah, they do have a habit in these modern mangas. It was not so much the case long ago, but after the 2000s, they felt like they had to explain what was happening on screen, starting kind of with Sailor Moon, kind of with the Transformers Armada saga. They started to explain everything. They would throw in these lines where the hero's going to fire his boom blaster gun move thing. He would explain it while standing on the back of a card back thing and go like, reality TV style, prepare to fire the boom blaster cannon move, fire. The enemy guy would be standing right there going like, okay, now I know what you're going to do. You just told me. Okay, I'm going to counter with my other beam blaster thing. Fire breath and air breath and whatever. It's in this movie. I guess it's a trope for the whole thing. It's not supposed to make sense. Yeah. The movie has a habit of jumping backward and forward in time to show why the characters' motivations happen. And I get that because you're kind of watching, 4 seasons of an anime version of a manga, kind of condensed into this finale. This is kind of like the last couple episodes of the 4th season, apparently. So therefore, that's why it's jumping around, because it's showing you stuff that happened during season 4. And if you don't know, then you're kind of going like, what? Why do we need this backstory? This guy. And there were 2 other people in the theater. And I said, well, this is yet another Japanese anime movie where I went in and I was watching a sequel. And he's all, it's worse than that. It's 4th season. It's like, no wonder it doesn't make sense. I liked it, but it was gory. But yeah, 4th season. Oh my goodness. Well, it's the 4th season finale. Okay. No wonder. It would be like stepping into Star Trek Discovery in season 5 and trying to figure out what's going on in the last episode. But yeah, there's so much crammed in there that you're like, you get it. And the movie kind of tries to explain, like an OVA would do, Crunchyroll and Sony, of course. Those guys that do Crunchyroll and Sony did all the movie adaptations for Fanamicon. So we're gonna have to go to see Crunchyroll movie after Phantom. Yeah, I saw the Macross Delta and a bunch of other ones years ago. That's Crunchyroll. Sony bought them, and this was one of theirs. And it's also UFO Time, I think, did the production. Um, anyway, so yeah, I was familiar with them at least. Yeah, I don't know them though, so don't ask. I don't. Just familiar with them as well. There's okay. Your basic setup is there's these guys, the Demon Slayer Corps, sent in there all the Buffy people from Buffy, or Sailor Moon Scouts, or the Evangelion characters, or Vampire Hunter D, the one guy, but now it's a Corps. It's a bunch of them, and all of that. I'm kind of mixing them up there. Those are old school stuff, and they go in there, and they have to fight the demons in the demon world. Okay, so that kind of makes sense. Okay, they go and fight, and they have to go into this special place that's a big, constantly moving around tesseract type of thing, with shifting buildings and things that all kind of look like the inside of a Japanese house from 100 years ago. So it's like moving all around, but it's all fuzzy. And in the ethereal upper level, there is a group of business people from 100 years ago mapping the corridor on parchment, the white parchment. They're mapping the where everyone is, sort of like they're tracking them, but like old school tracking them. And there's crows that fly around telling you when people died, or didn't die, or were wounded. Not sure the crow would be telling everyone that, but it just is. But that's not the only monologuing. Apparently the whole thing is like that. I saw the Japanese version because I didn't want to see the dubbed one was later, so I didn't see the dubbed one. And yes, I have seen Neja 1 and Neja 2. That's China though. I've seen both of them. I've seen, but yes, that's China. I've seen the volleyball one, and there's a running one coming up. But yeah, so there's different levels of these characters from the show. I presume they were from the show. And this girl whose sister was defeated by the demon. She's got to go fight the flamboyant demon guy with the fans with blades on them. All of the bad guy from a Bruce Lee movie like decades ago in the 70s. Bad guy with fans. And who appeared in... There was a version of them as a girl in the Quentin Tarantino movies, which he was ripping off the Japanese animation. But yes, the fan lady. I think there was one of those in James Bond as well. I think it was. Yeah, so... But yeah, so the deadly fan lady. The deadly fan guy, the demon guy. He's fighting a girl, but she's got powers. She's got space powers. And they keep flashing back to all the ways that her sister trained her. They trained among the slayers in the dojo, and karate dojo, and learned all this stuff. And there's a little bit of there's definitely Taoist influences and Buddhist influences. They sort of make fun of both and everyone else, but they also have an odd penchant to put little like things on their little papers on their head or on a person somewhere to indicate it's a divination thing. That's something from that old rural thing over there in Japan, and that indicates like, or the bad guy gets tattooed if he gets caught stealing and stuff like that. There's a so this girl, his older sister, was in, I presume, the other episodes of the other show, and now she's got to take over for her sister, fight the bad guy, fight this effeminate bad guy who's almost unstoppable, and that doesn't go so well. But yeah, apparently you have to cut off the head like Highlander, chop off the head, kill the demon. But Highlander influence. Also, usually if it cuts something's head off, it kind of can't think anymore. Although maybe not, because later on there's a zombie that's walking around and going to regenerate his head. Um, but it's very gory. It's not for kids at all. Yeah. This is like next level, and it doesn't hold back on the gore. If the Horror Geek reviewed this anime, he'd have to give it 5 barf bag rating for being extremely messed up. There's more blood spatters in this than in Demon Murasaki Demon Womb. Uh, but yeah, little manga, yeah, they fight the bad guys there, so it's about fighting the bad guys. So it's like the heroes fighting demons. So it's fine. Um, the one of the bad guys tries to explain to this other person that he's fighting one of the other heroes. So there's 2 guys as well. The girl gets dispatched, and then later on these 2 young guys, a guy and I guess a student and a slightly younger student, and they're like fighting. And the thing, they got to go fight 2 different demons, and one of them is goading the older guy on because he's like saying, "Oh, the real world doesn't exist, the ethereal plane doesn't exist, and all that, and then you humans, you just die and you die." The irony being that in the story starts off in the ethereal plane, so they've already passed into another dimension where he's disproven as a bad guy, clearly lying, because they're clearly they've gone into this other dimension, and there's another dimension after ours, and they're in it. So he's full of crap. Yeah, so that's cool. But yeah, so yeah, so he figures he's full of crap. So he beats him up, beats up the bad guy for the head, and then there's some other fighting. The younger one goes to fight the other guy because the bigger one's fighting him. The younger, then there's this other, a couple of protracted long scenes whenever they have the bad guy, a good guy fighting the bad guy, kind of like a video game. They have final boss, effeminate guy, final boss demon guy in the middle of the movie, and this guy at the very end to spend the last 40 minutes on, and do like a long backstory. All while they're projecting all of their moves for each other, because apparently they sparred with some of these guys in the real world and in the afterlife before, and they know like different levels they've got. So they're level 2 and 3, level 1 to level 7 or something. They also mention different forms and that are different levels, like karate forms and taekwondo forms and kung fu forms. And they seem to know all these levels, and if they get to a higher level, they do something better or something. Some of them almost become demons because they're like, okay. So yeah, I get what's going on. It's very kung fu kind of thing, but it's karate. but yeah, it's not taekwondo. It's karate. A little kung fu in there. Definitely influenced by that. Yeah, the brutal dojon scene that actually happens later. That was given away at the box lunch. There's a propensity for the characters to try to level up by explaining their different moves and going on to the different moves, and then being belittled by the bad guy, who basically tells them your moves suck, which is kind of fun. And then, you should try this other move, and then the bad guy will say what the move is, and the other guy tries it, and it works. And it's like, wait a minute, maybe you ought to not project that to the bad guy. Just a thought. I'm gonna fire the Earth Breath laser beam thing. Ah, yeah. Thank you for telling me what move you were going to make. Ha, senpai. Yes, I know senpai is friend, not sensei. Being funny. Senpai is admirer, but they kind of do admire the bad guys. They kind of like showing backstory. It's weird that they spend what seems like half of the movie on the main boss at the end, the guy with the tattoos all over him, doing his backstory and all of his origin and how he became a bad guy. And it's like, I guess that's in the manga from what I read, but and it's from season 1 from what I read. But did we necessarily need that in the 4th movie in the series? Did we need his origin story, especially when they flash back to these are the two guys that show up later to fight the thing. And there's another lady who is stuck in. There's a girl who's stuck inside this other main boss who's behind the scenes, stuck inside this giant cocoon orb, blah 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 thing. Yes. In Transformers Earthspark, they stole this from Demon Slayer. This is a creature that has absorbed people, and they're like stuck in him. Like, but they also kind of stole that from Freddy Krueger in the '80s. So yeah, they kind of did. The soul chest. Yeah, they sort of stole that, but that's fine. Yeah, sure. So we have this goofy, like, yeah, the other extra dimensional beings fighting extra dimensional beings in another world type of place. I don't know if it's a heaven exactly, or I guess it's supposed to be hell. But the way it's structured, it seems more like a perdition because they're able to move around in it, go to different levels. It's a bit like Dante's Inferno in there, which was a classic book. It's a bit more like that, the different levels of hereafter and whatever. That's Dante's Inferno. Yeah, it's clearly referenced to that in there. But yeah, they're the levels of that, and then the bad guy saying, "Oh yeah, those other realms don't exist. You die. Ah, but how are they in the other netherworld? They didn't die. They're in the netherworld." That does beg the question. On top of that, somebody else in the theater was like, "Wait a minute. If they're in the netherworld, why are they being hurt?" That's a good question. Because if they're literally spirits and they're in the spirit realm, but they only manifest their physical bodies because clearly they have, like, Sailor Moon powers, crossed with Buffy the Vampire Slayer powers. Yeah, they would all be nigh immortal. They would nothing would hurt them. They slightly, yeah, yeah. They if they're not physically there because they're like dead basically. Neja explains it a little better because it was a Chinese one. The kid had to be brought back with the clay, the idol thing, and rise up. Or they had to explain how they would come back from either realm. Whatever. But this one's just like, no, I'll just throw you right into it. Literally down a shaft into this weird tesseract thing, which is a cool way to start your movie, definitely. It certainly does have a lot of stuff going on. But the oddity of trying to redeem a zombie that has its head chopped off is hilarious. The zombie bad guy. The main boss from season 4 apparently gets brutalized, and he has a flashback to season 1 apparently, where he was created he was a thief who gets tattooed and spanked around, and then he was raised up by this Dojon guy whose rival Dojon wants to kill him, and then his sick daughter, and they raise up, and it's part of that character's backstory. If you look it up, it's part of his back, Kanata, something like that. Kind of sounds a little bit like a throwback to Akira, and I'm sure it is. I'm sure they're referencing that to be funny, but yes, that was another classic Japanese one. But in that one, they were in the real world, but supernatural stuff was going on in that real world because of the nuke creatures they had created with the psionic powers in the real world. In that one, they weren't in another dimension. Yeah, that's kind of like a Matrix. Now, this thing is kind of a Matrix thing, but it's not a Matrix. It's a another plane of existence. It's more like a Dante kind of thing. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Yeah. So it's like the Neja thing, only less dramatic. Definitely more gory though than Neja. But yeah, it's not for kids. It's rated R. It's definitely rated R. Not for kids. Definitely earns it. It's an animated rated R movie. Yeah, but it's the animation style when there's quite a lot of animation and drawing, cell animation in it. Works. The visuals work. It's interesting. It's good. It's a good movie. But it's not for everyone. It's a very niche fantasy movie, and it's not particularly my genre. Yeah, I mean, I don't really do supernatural beast movies, but sure, I mean, yeah, I'll go to see them sometimes. Um, yeah, I mean, science fiction and fantasy are similar cousins. So horror is the similar cousin. Definitely body horror. Definitely some eldritch horror type of Cthulhu type of Lovecraftian stuff going on in this movie. Yeah, yeah. And yeah. So anyway, so they needed to explain the backstory of the main bad guy, the main boss they fight at the end, because they spend the longest time like fighting this guy and figuring things out and fighting this guy. Two guys gang up to fight him, and the guy with the tattoos all over him, demon. And and they go to this backstory for like 40 minutes of his origin and how his I guess his young wife who'd been the sick girl was betrayed, as well as the father guy was betrayed. And there's a lot of Control Alt deleting fathers in this. There's several guys that lost their father from Control Alt Delete. It's just messed up. That's dark. They go there with that. And they do that because they in the movie. But in this case, they were poisoned by a bad guy, and then the kid gets revenge by going into the other dojo, even though he doesn't know whether they did it or not. He does it anyway. Goes in there. I guess in the series they explained that they did. They're actually behind it. They did it out of jealousy or something. There's a lot of that, jealousy and rage and revenge, and there's just an awful lot of exposition and explaining their moves before they do them, which would be telegraphing tremendously. They say fire breath a lot, water breath a lot. They use the elemental breath thing. It's kind of a Last Airbender kind of thing, feel to it too as well. And Last Airbender was an American cartoon send up to the manga and anime that was done in America. It was an anime, send up to it. And those Cameron Avatar movies, including this newer one, is even more of a send up to Avatar than this one. But the preview for that looks kind of boring. This is not. There's even a flubbed line in the Avatar 3 trailer where where the guy literally can't say "let go your anger" correctly, and it sounded terrible. What happened? They needed to do that line over. He says to the girl, "Let go your anger." I was like, oh my god. They should have done another take on that one. Wow. They must have spent $1 billion on that movie and they couldn't get a good line out of that guy. Let go. Hey. Oh. This wasn't even, it was awful. And his accent was going everywhere. I was like, who was that supposed to be? Is that the dad? Anyway, that was Airbender, the fire and water, the fire avatar of the Last Airbender, Fire Thundercats sequel. That was something else though. And here they kind of do that too, but they make fun of it. Here they're kind of like, okay, well, and they make fun of their own religions too, which is funny, and mock themselves. They have, well, they're constantly flashing back. Like, do we need the backstory of why the bad guy's evil in this story? Do we need that? Do we really need that 40 minutes? Yeah. If it was an 80s or late 80s one, they would just not included that because they didn't need it. He's going to get killed. His head was off already. He's trying to grow it back. And then the girl shows up as a spirit and tries to like pull him back to the netherworld and whatever. In their whole we don't need a redemption arc for the bad guy. He sucks. Let him die. We don't need that. Is everybody redeemable even in the other afterlife? Is that the point of the story? Because okay, they keep saying that, so I guess it is. But no, the bad guy's not redeemable. He needs to stay in perdition because he's evil. He's not redeemable. I don't think so. Why should there be hope for the bad guy? His head is off, and he's trying to grow it back. He's a zombie. Oh yes, and by the way, and the other trailer was 28 days later. The Bone Temple. It is coming out. So yeah, it's coming out 28 years later. The Bone Temple. They finished it. It's coming. So I didn't see 28 years later, so I wouldn't know. But I heard that it gets weird. Anyway, so that was my review of Demon Castle. Yeah, Demon Slayer Part 4. The castle. The castle.